Cool. We're now live.
Oh,
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Academic Ale House. We are live. I am your host, Clayton. I'm joined once again by Caesar.
hello. How's it going?
One day we'll manage to make two podcasts 2 weeks in a row. But until that day, you'll have to live with our sparse content. That being said, we're back in the in plain sight how white supremacy, misogyny, and hate targeted the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
Yep, we're back to the rewriting with Ripley article.
I also have vodka Sprite, so if I
Cool,
get more belligerent as the stream goes on, that is
cool.
why.
I've got rum Coke. I see.
Also, if you at any point hear me go ow, it's because I made a terrible decision, got my ears pierced last week.
Oh, you went through with it.
Yes, I did.
How'd it go?
It doesn't hurt at all, really. It's like 2 seconds of pain and then it's over. But it's just right now. It's just remembering them to clean them every day.
Hmm.
Anyway, so did want to start this off since there's the one thing that happened this week that's really really interesting. That is the verdict. The verdict on that trial that YouTube doesn't want to talk about. My opinion on that verdict is that while I was hoping for it to be different, I feel as though with the comments made by certain people in power and by certain groups in the area, that this is that the verdict was inevitable. And it very much goes to prove that we have a problem in this country when there are people in positions of power like that can positions of power and activist groups that can essentially hold a jury hostage and get the verdict they want because it goes along with their narrative. It is a dangerous step to take, and I think we should be very, very careful and I think you should tell people that, regardless of whether or not you agree with the verdict, that the fact that outside forces became involved at all in this proceeding is a very dangerous precedent to set.
Yeah, man. Activist movements are kind of like the mafia in a way.
On to lighter things that won't get us demonetized or thrown off YouTube. Ooh, because if we get another, I think we have one strike right now. If we get another one, we're gone for 2 weeks. And if we get another one after that, we're banned. So
Yeah, we're normally gone for 2 weeks anyway.
fair enough. So let's start. So let's begin. Leave. This is where we left off. If we didn't leave off here, well, you can, you know, catch up, I guess. Or, well, actually, you'll live through me recapping essentially. All right. White nationalism targets the Star Wars franchise. On October. I guess for those who don't know, this is a who is it? Rewriting Ripley
Yeah.
article about how basically the reason Star Wars: The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker were panned was because of white nationalism because Donald Trump was in office and because Jordan Peterson and blah and blah. On October 19th, 2015, 4chan trolls and members of 4chan's poll board, a Gamergate forum, began the hashtag boycott Star Wars 8 hashtag.
That's 7.
Oh, is it 7?
Yeah.
Oh.
VII is 7. V with 3 I's is 8.
Okay, so what did you? All right, so let's address the whole. This 4chan's poll board isn't a Gamergate forum. It's basically like it's what is poll? How would you describe poll to someone who's never been on poll?
Yes, please explain it to me.
Yeah, like I'm asking because I don't have the words to describe poll. I guess that's how you describe poll. You need to experience poll for yourself before you can. But I know it's definitely not a Gamergate forum. A self-appointed troll under the username Dark Enlighten, now suspended, shocker, tweeted that the new Star Wars movie, hashtag Star Wars 7, barely has any whites in it, hashtag boycott Star Wars 7. The tag was meant to direct hate towards people of color in the cast in the upcoming film, The
Well,
Force
how do you
Awakens.
know? How do you know what the person's intent was? Is it meant to direct hate? Well, how do you know it was meant for that?
I mean, to me, he's just pointing out a fact. And not even a true fact either. It's just something made up. It's just something made up to piss people like you off, author. Who is the author? Did we call out the author?
No, I'm sure other channels have. I know Geeks and Gamers did a video on this,
Probably.
talking about how the writer is. I think the writer is buddies with like people over at Lucasfilm.
Oh,
I need to rewatch the video to double check though.
I'm sure. Anyway, the hold on. I'm going to check something real quick because normally okay, no, we're here. Just normally we have a few people trickle in by now. Whatever.
Yeah, I posted it over on the Smudcast Discord, but
Okay.
but some of our viewers from last time are taking part in another live stream.
Ah, so there's another thing going on right now, so that's why. All right, that explains it. Barely has any whites in it. Blah blah blah. For upcoming the color of the cast in the upcoming film, The Force Awakens, including Oscar Isaac, Lupita Nyong'o, and John Boyega, with the brunt of the attack focused on Boyega. Okay. So, someone pointed out the new Star Wars doesn't have a majority white cast, and SJWs got mad. So Hose is mad, basically. The Twitter event spurred dissent from liberals and progressives expressing outrage, quote unquote, against the hashtag. Analytics firm Physiology reported that 6% of tweets were considered racist, and then they were simply trying to get people mad. Mashable concluded that the tag wasn't an actual racist movement. So author, if two analytics firms, presumably relatively independent, not unbiased, mind you, but independent, said yeah, these are racist, but it's most likely not actually vicious intentional racism. It's just racism. It's hollow racism to make you mad. Yeah, this is why I'm not on Twitter. What's up, Cyrek? This is why I'm not on Twitter. You will never find me on Twitter. You can find Academic Alehouse on Twitter, but it's essentially just, hey, we are live now, kind
You
of
can
thing.
find me on Twitter, but I go by a completely different name.
But yeah, this is why I'm not on Twitter. I'm a happier person because I'm not on Twitter.
Well, happiness is overrated, so I'm on Twitter.
Mashable concluded that the tag wasn't actually an actual racist movement. Yeah. So maybe you should consider that. Maybe, author, you should consider that if these two things are telling you that it's probably just trolling, that it might just be trolling. However, mainstream media coverage was writing off the racist hashtag as the work of trolls. A white supremacist hate group was taking credit for the tag. On October 20th, 2015, Michael Thompson, who operates under the pseudonym Paul Kersey, a noted white nationalist and founder of the Black People Don't Like, of the blog Stuff Black People Don't Like, published an article claiming credit for the hashtag. This article was published on VDare, a designated hate group by the SPLC. Yeah, I trust them. VDare is most noted for using Breitbart to spread anti-immigration sentiment with the goal of achieving public approval for White House advisor Stephen Miller's Trump-era immigration reform. How's that working out for you now? I mean, the kids in cages have now. Now I've heard that the kids in cages, they have to move to a completely new facility because there's so many of them in the cages they have to keep in. The day before the hashtag trended, Thompson tweeted on his account, BWLH, no plans to see Star Wars, why no white males, young white male cast in lead roles, hashtag Star Wars The Force Awakens. The racist hate was picked up by the main Star Wars hashtag and spread through 4chan and Twitter. All right, so she has screenshots of the tweets here. And this is, in my opinion, the best cell phone ever. So let's see. The initial tweet. No plans to see Star Wars 7. Why no white males, young white males, cast in lead roles? Question mark. Star Wars The Force Awakens.
So
7 comments, 17 retweets, and 6 likes.
Yeah, and we'll just ignore that. We'll ignore Adam Driver and the guy who plays Hux.
I hate Star Wars. I hate Star Wars 1, Mace Windu and that black alien, Jar Jar Binks. 3 retweets, 1 like. No comments. Japanese Star Wars trailer downplays the role of the black guy, and the movie looks that much better. Few black sequels movie gold.
This guy just sounds like a troll to me.
He does. 2 retweets, no likes, no.
This is the kind of this is the kind of humor that I make on the internet.
Patton Oswald, verified checkmark. Verified checkmark. Has the most interaction on any tweet in this 4-tweet thread. At Patton Oswald. Oh, it's real. I inadvertently started it on Sunday when I noticed Star Wars has no new leading white male actors. No interaction whatsoever. So, you know what this tells me, author? This tells me that this little person is irrelevant. Like, they're just another commenter. They're just another person on the Twitter sphere. They don't have any real influence on anyone. This is probably the That's 17 retweets and 7 comments and 6 likes from his initial tweet. It is probably people he follows just retweeting. Anyway. On VDare, Thompson writes, "Say what you will about getting people to think in the terms a movie is anti-white is a huge positive because it allows them to consider the notion that of their own dispossession, especially if they've never even thought of this reality before." I feel like we're missing context here. Like, this whole sentence needs more context. Like, I mean, say what you will about getting people to think in terms of a movie thing, getting people to think in the terms a movie is anti-white is a huge positive because it allows them to consider the notion of their own dispossession, especially if they've never even thought of this reality before. I need more context. On Twitter, people were considering these white supremacist ideals. I hate to break it to you, but your picture earlier tells me no, they weren't. Including user Angry GOTF fan. Angry Game of Thrones fan, idiot, who tweeted that weekend in support of the hashtag. The hashtag boycott Star Wars 7. People have a point. Hashtag problematic. 14 retweets, 16 favorites. I mean, it is a bit of a contrast there. I feel the Kermit the Frog meme is sort of appropriate here. You know, the texting was included above a picture that insinuated that the new Star Wars film was anti-white because people of color were being portrayed as the good guys and white actors were playing the bad guys. Well, there is somewhat of a clear divide here. Poor Adam Driver. You know, I'm sure Adam Driver is an attractive man in certain circumstances. This is not one of them. This poor man, look at him. He looks like the nerd that got rained on and lost his glasses. This image would also appear.
Who's the actor on who's the actor on the bottom center left?
This guy?
Between Andy Serkis and Hux.
I assume that's Andy Serkis.
No, Andy Serkis is the one on the far left. The old guy right next to him.
I think he might be the old guy that dies on Jakku.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then he's not a bad guy.
I thought that was Andy Serkis, I'll be honest.
Oh, no, Andy Serkis is he's a much younger guy.
All right. This image would also appear on the website of white nationalist podcast band YouTube channel, Red Ice. He's similar to Thompson's article on VDare. The white supremacist site claimed that hashtag boycott Star Wars has opened minds to the concept of white genocide. I don't think so. Like, I've heard of Red Ice before. I have. But only mentioned in passing on different channels. Like, and even then, I can't remember if they were like SJW channels or they were like people like Sargon or sticks. There might be someone I followed at one time who like literally spent his whole thing responding to Red Ice. The site continues with anti-Semitic conspiracies, claiming that Star Wars The Force Awakens is being called anti-white propaganda, and Twitter is ablaze with the users called J.J. Abrams a Jewish activist. Yeah.
No, nobody from my circle has said that, or at least not the YouTubers that I've
Yeah, the old
follow.
guy's the guy the stormtroopers kill at the beginning of the scene, at the beginning of the movie.
I mean, I'm
activist.
sure. I mean, I'm sure like ER has made references to Abrams being Jewish, but ER is just a troll. He does it for lulz.
Abrams and most of the cast of Star Wars are Jewish. Does Star Wars propaganda connect with the protocols of the Elders of Zion? Like, you see how far you have to go to like even get this idea to connect? You have to talk about people you have to talk about people who already believe in a conspiracy to get other people to believe your conspiracy. Like, that's how circular this thinking is. Like, you have to basically say, because person A said this and person A believes in the conspiracy that Jews rule the world, therefore white supremacy is rampant in our society. Like, and Ouroboros is jealous of how much you've eaten of your own tail. The boycott would also draw the attention of Holocaust-denying publisher Chuck Johnson on the former site Got News, where he wrote, is the very white Star Wars being culturally appropriated by the Jewish J.J. Abrams. Star Wars is a productive of a white America, whether or not we want to accept it. The action figures that made George Lucas a billionaire were purchased by suburban white families.
Well, this is a huge fucking reach. If this person's gonna start comparing geeks and gamers in the quartering to a Holocaust denier.
Yeah.
And I've scrolled down a little bit, and yeah, they talk about pretty much every YouTuber that's ever talked negatively about the sequel trilogy. Yeah, it's
less than a year after supporting the racist hashtag on Twitter, a Game of Thrones fan would be sitting next to neo-Nazi figurehead Richard Spencer, VDare founder Peter Brimlow, and Jared Taylor, founder of the white nationalist group American Resistance, or Renaissance, at the 2016 Republican National Convention.
okay. So okay. So some rando on Twitter.
So they bought tickets to a convention that's open to the public.
Okay, yeah. So some random guy was talking about. So some random guy on Twitter who apparently sat next to Richard Spencer bitched about the casting of Star Wars, and this somehow ties into the aforementioned YouTubers that I mentioned.
Yeah, exactly. He must have the same beliefs. He was mildly near Richard Spencer and Peter Brimlow. Therefore, he must believe the same things as those two. Ooh. Conspiracy upon conspiracy upon conspiracy. Soon after, angry Game of Thrones fan would change his Twitter name to Jack Posbeck, whatever, and rise to fame as an alt-right leader pushing dangerous conspiracy theories such as Pizzagate. Alongside Mike Cernovich, Poziobek, it currently serves as a host on a far-right network, One American News Network. Okay? So he got a job out of it, basically. Good on him. It should be also be noted that I'm gonna butcher this every time. Posobiec, whatever, would establish a direct connection to Thompson during the publication of No Campus is for White Men, The Transformation of Higher Education into Hateful Indoctrination. No Campus for White Men is a book written by Scott Greer, a friend of Thompson's, and a former editor and columnist at the Daily Caller. The book's foreword is written by Yiannopoulos, while Cernovich takes center stage on the book's jacket. According to Right Wing Watch, Jozebek and Thompson may have also been connected through MAGA 3X.
Ooh, Right Wing Watch. That sounds like a very extremely unbiased channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually,
An extremely unbiased source.
Yeah, I actually went on that website one time, and yeah, I just saw they had an article on Dankula. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm done here.
Posobiec. Okay, thank you, Cyrek. A group of white nationalists who tried to manipulate social media to influence Trump's candidacy. Interesting statistic, author. But if you look at media coverage of Donald Trump's rise, it begins as somewhat joking. They don't think he's a real contender. And then he wins. And they're like, well, let's be real. I'll go into that, Cyrek. I'm building the narrative. As Trump proceeds to win more and more, and he crushes Jeb Bush, and he basically throws every other candidate out the way so he can bluster his way into the primary spot. His competition is Ted Cruz, the milk toastiest of the milk toast Republicans. Don't get me wrong, Senator Ted Cruz is a great man, is cool. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Like the one time Samantha Bee has ever made me laugh is when she was making fun of Ted Cruz. And I'm perfectly okay saying that. Judge me if you will. But
I
the
judge you
moment
every day.
Donald Trump began to speak about the problems that the Democrats and other people in power didn't like people to address because, they either created them or perpetuate them, they quickly turned to, we need to find something to bury him with. And so they tried, and they tried, and they tried, and they tried, and they tried. And eventually, and when he got into the presidency, every single day was non-stop. Trump is evil. Trump is a monster. Trump is this. Trump, 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 Trump. And when people sat back and when certain people stepped back and said, I wonder how much negative coverage Trump has received versus other presidents. And it was all Trump has received Trump, and I believe this was at 2 years in office or like 1 year in office. It's a very early on in his run as president. The coverage of President Trump was 98% negative. 98%. And you're going to sit there and tell me that a random group, MAGA 3X, of people that I have no idea who they are, somehow influenced Trump's candidacy. by posting ads on Facebook, which I could do. Like right now, I have $5 and Academic Ale House has a page on Facebook. I could make a post and boost it. That's advertising on Facebook. They impeached the man twice and failed both times. Hold on. Posobiec would also play an important role in the next iteration of the 21st century online culture wars, the spread of hate against Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. No. The hate for Star Wars Episode 8 came about because Star Wars Episode 8 is garbage. Still, thank you, Cyrek. I don't know if I did this already, but Cyrek, you're now the official Academic Ale House fact checker. You need to appear in all our streams and just type whenever we're wrong about something. There's no pay, it's a volunteer. There's no pay.
There's no pay, but we do have a whip.
The new Gamergate, the rise of alt-right ideology in Star Wars fandom. By the way, this is only part 1 of a 2-part article, and we're not even a quarter of the way through it.
Enjoy.
Well, I hope we're entertaining. Star Wars Episode 8 The Last Jedi released on December 15th, 2017 to universal acclaim from critics and glowing audience score from CinemaScore. Only statistically sound audience score available to the general public. The movie would go on to gross $1 billion in less than 3 weeks and become one of the most successful movies of all time. That doesn't mean anything. That literally doesn't mean anything. A lot of movies that people think are great when they come out, upon further reflection, grow less and less good.
And bad movies can make billions of dollars.
Exactly.
Transformers.
Transformers is a premier example of this. Transformers 2 made more than Transformers 1. Didn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And that one it's just, it's bad. It's so bad. The history is full of movies that are now considered to be bad movies that have made billions or millions of dollars more than their budget. Or received on release glowing critical reviews. It's something that happens. Honestly, Endgame is one of those movies for me. I love Endgame. I do. It's not that great a movie. In comparison to what came before.
Yeah, Endgame was it wasn't terrible, but it's definitely not how I would have concluded it.
I disagree. And the reason I disagree, Cyrek, on Avatar is because Avatar doesn't ever tilt to bad. It's just a story we've seen so many times before, or that it was passé, basically.
Yeah, I think Avatar is a very overhated movie. It's not a great movie, but I wouldn't go so far as to say it's bad. It's just the plot is just very by the numbers.
Yeah. It's a paint by numbers movie. It's baby's first plot, basically. Oh, where was I? Okay. Oh yeah. Yet even with its obvious success, the narrative surrounding the film claimed that the movie was one of the most polarizing Star Wars movies ever released. This narrative was overwhelmingly driven by the film's Rotten Tomatoes audience score that currently sits at rotten 42% and calls from vocal fans on Twitter to fund a remake of The Last Jedi. Yeah, fans want to remake Game of Thrones season 8 too because that's bad. But let's go with this part, this Rotten Tomatoes thing. And it's because, Rotten Tomatoes changed their scoring system, interestingly enough. During the middle of The Last Jedi, the Rotten Tomatoes changed how they wrote their scores, how they scored things. So, which means that they took away, like, you couldn't rate the movie 1 star or less than 1 star or half a star anymore. I think that's like they changed something about the way they scored things. So this 42% is probably much lower. And that's the reason why the narrative was focused on Rotten Tomatoes. But when you actually get down to it and start examining the story of The Last Jedi, it's just a bad story. All right. According to at RMT, The Last Jedi, the account behind the campaign to remake The Last Jedi, the film was bad because the creatives behind the film lost their way from the hero archetype. There isn't much explanation on what this means beyond Kelly Marie Tran's Rose Tico failing to live up to fan expectations of being a badass pilot.
Wait, okay.
What? Hold on. What?
Sounds like this person's getting all the different criticisms all mixed up.
What?
If they mean lost their way from the hero archetype, I assume that's referring to what happened to Luke. Let's see where this tweet. Let's see. Okay, they have a link where it says lost their way from the hero archetype. It's a link to a Twitter thread.
Oh, let's not. I'd rather not scroll through a Twitter thread.
All right.
But even so, like, these are two separate criticisms. Like, there isn't much explanation on what this means beyond Kelly Marie Tran's Rose Tico. Like, where did Rose Tico come into this? Like, how does lost their way from the hero archetype involve Tico's characterization? Like, where do those two connect? Like, this giant gap is a problem in your conspiracy theory. In fact, many complaints against the film are aimed at its female characters. One fan illustrated this when he released an edit of The Last Jedi with all the women removed.
Okay, it's not the fans' fault that the 3 main female characters are all poorly written.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I did not go into the movie wanting to hate any of these characters. I actually liked Rey from when The Force Awakens, so it's not like I was going out of my way to hate her or anything. I probably hate Rey. I hate Rey less than most people tend to do.
One fan illustrated this when he released an edit of The Last Jedi with all women removed. Okay, so he's either trolling or he thinks it's just a funny video.
And here's a link. I just followed the link to this. It says sad sexist cuts together edit of The Last Jedi minus the women. Rian Johnson and Mark Hamill aren't having it. Unfortunately, it's not an actual.
Link to the article or
I,
link to the video.
yeah, I can't. Yeah, I don't see it.
Yeah, that's probably been yeeted off the internet, so, you know.
Well, there's Mark Hamill's response.
Who
Yeah,
cares? Someone went out, spent money, so who cares? Like, I have a question. Who cares? It's one of those edits that people do. You know, there's an edit of the B movie where every time they say B, it gets faster. I guarantee you there's probably an edit of the B movie with all the humans removed too. It's just an edit.
I've heard that there's an edit of the B movie that's like the single longest video on in all of YouTube. Like it's, I think it's like almost like years long.
How did they get it to process? Jesus.
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't on YouTube, but somewhere on the internet.
I don't know. Yeah, that's the thing. That's one thing, Cyrus, is like, was Tico ever pegged as anything more than like a maintenance worker? Was she marketed that way? Was she marketed as some sort of badass pilot?
And even
I
yeah,
don't know.
even
I don't
then,
remember her appearing in any of the marketing either.
yeah, and I guess going back to the three female characters, and I honestly didn't hate Rose as much as other people did either. The only one that the only one I legitimately hated was Holdo. She is an awful character.
She's she reminds me a lot of, actually, I think it might have been, no, it wasn't. Um she reminds me a lot of a character in a movie I watched last night called I Care a Lot. It's a movie on Netflix. Watching the trailers for The Last Jedi isn't that bad. It just gets your hopes up too high. But like, the main character of I Care a Lot is someone who takes advantage of others for her own personal gain. And at the end of the movie, she gets shot, which personally I think wasn't enough. No spoilers. The movie's actually worth the watch. You will feel disgusted at every turn.
But yet it's still worth the watch.
Yeah, it is. Like you're just it. Actually, for about half the movie, it's worth the watch, and then it just flips the script and is like female power. So, you know, it flips the script, and then if I had to describe it without spoilers, it would be that it would be Death Note, but without the drawn out plot, the supernatural elements, or the dumbing down and dumbed down, basically. No, that's not an accurate way to describe it. It's just not a fun movie, but it does, like, it goes out of its way to make you hate everyone in it, except for like peripheral characters, which I think is interesting enough to watch. Okay, that's what I thought. So, Rose Tico, the badass pilot, is basically a fiction this person made up. Nice. Yet, even as sexist movies behind the backlash were motives behind, Yet, even as sexist motives behind the backlash were revealed, and as an alt-right Facebook account claimed credit for the review bombing of The Last Jedi on Rotten Tomatoes, there's more on this one later. Yeah, I'm sure. No one could escape the narrative that The Last Jedi was divisive. From data analysis, from a data analyst's perspective, there isn't much that's divisive about an exit review poll of and a movie that grosses as much money worldwide as the much anticipated final installment of the Harry Potter franchise. Naysayers will claim that the movie is a failure because it didn't gross as much as The Force Awakens. No. But benchmarking a second film in a franchise whose value is partially tied to the fact that the franchise had produced no content in more than 10 years is not the best approach, however, the debate raged on. Okay, so all right, so yes, that is a way to criticize the film, but I would criticize the film that is inferior, that is a bad film, as when it stands alone, it is a bad film. There's no reason that leaning on the money like this is the thing, you've entirely missed many of the criticisms levied at at The Last Jedi because you're so focused on who's doing the criticism. What color is their skin? Are they do they believe this? Are they followers of X ideology? Because if you were paying attention to what is being criticized, I think you'd find that you probably could sit down and watch the movie again and find that you agree with a lot of those criticisms. I walked out of the film not happy, but I could not ever articulate why. And there's a reason for that. It's because I didn't have the tools I needed at the time to to make my criticism. I didn't know as much about the story of the story of a structure. The structure of a story. I didn't understand what made what made beats work and what made this plot work and what made it not work. I needed someone else to show me to articulate what I felt. I needed someone to give me the tools so I could accurately explain my feelings and thoughts on on The Last Jedi. All right. So for the sake of argument, once again, no metric that isn't an internal brand tracker or segmentation within Disney, it will be as statistically accurate as the cinema score. Like her entire reliance on cinema score is exactly. Her extreme reliance on cinema score tells me that her consideration for the sources as a whole has been very limiting. She's gone with the source that confirms her bias the most and has just run with it. I say she, I don't know the gender of the author, whatever. It could be Shoggoth. Fuck it. From now on, the author is Shoggoth. The author of this article will henceforth be referred to as Shoggoth. I wanted to conduct a sentiment analysis on two major social media platforms, Twitter and YouTube. If this movie was truly polarizing, there should be a positive. Yeah. on Twitter and YouTube. If this movie was truly polarizing, there should be a positive to negative sentiment ratio of 1 to 1. This means for every positive tweet or YouTube video, there should be a negative tweet or YouTube video. Okay, makes sense, but there's a lot of variables in that. Caesar, are you still with me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
listening.
You're just sitting back and watching?
Yep. Trying to multitask.
So this is a very I hesitate to say simple because it's not going to be simple because her whole thing isn't simple. But if you're going to pin down a divisive, the idea that one thing is divisive versus that one is divisive versus the other not, versus if you're going to attribute positive to negative, and that ratio, and assume that ratio is going to be 1 to 1, you've already tainted your results. You've assumed the ratio is going to be 1 to 1, but there's a lot of variables here. People who release a lot of content, for example, on YouTube specifically, there are channels that release multiple videos in a day. There are channels that release one video every 2 months. There are channels that release content weekly or twice a week, and that content may contain negatives, it may contain positives. If you would have to sit and watch every single YouTube video about the last Star Wars: The Last Jedi in order to, yeah. Plus Longman rears his ugly head in this. Look, Mauler isn't a human. He's a dragon. Like Mauler is secretly a dragon. When he releases a video, he goes back into hibernate. Once he releases a video once every century or so, and goes back into hibernation, and that way, and then he goes back into hibernation. Someone from someone an artist needs to draw Dragon Mauler and send it to EFAP with no context. That would literally make my day.
It's just the Welsh dragon with a gas mask on.
Exactly. And then Twitter. There are people that tweet 5 or 6 times a day, and that tweet may contain negative sentiment. It may contain positive sentiment. Like, that's the thing. Your sources are massive. Like, there's what I think at last count 11 or 12 billion hours of content on YouTube. Something akin to that. It's a lot. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there. Regardless, and Star Wars is a popular enough thing that a lot of people were commenting on it. So your methodology would have to be very general to almost to the generalized in the extreme for this to make any sort of statistical reality. And even then, it would be probably deemed irrelevant. Additionally, if The Last Jedi truly divided fans, we should see a similar mix of the types of accounts spreading positivity or negativity about the movie. In other words, tweets getting the most likes or YouTube videos receiving the most attention in the search algorithm would proportionally come from people with similar backgrounds. Backgrounds here is defined as affiliations people have within certain profession, such as a journalist or community online, such as YouTubers. We should also see both positive and negative sentiment from average fans rising to the top of the conversations. Okay, again, this whole paragraph assumes that I think I'm about to get into I'm about to touch on this. Sorry, Rick, with this paragraph. So this paragraph here namely assumes that neither YouTube nor Twitter called their results. And by the time The Last Jedi came out, it was very clear YouTube was messing with its algorithm. Like YouTube was playing games with their algorithm to the point where it was basically broken. Like it's like that's the thing. I mean, this whole study relies on these two content platforms basically being unbiased, and they're not unbiased. Like, we know Twitter bans people or suspends people randomly for tweets, and I've no doubt they shadow ban. They either like suppressed or messed with a lot of the people that spoke negatively about The Last Jedi. YouTube probably did something similar. So your results would have to be assumed. That bias would have to be taken into account. And there's no point. She's not gonna all right, so I'm not gonna get into this. There's no point. It's just basically her attempting to use maths to try and make her point. All right, so who shows platform races all right? Yeah, all right. So let's see. Yeah, everything's negative thing come from the right, basically. Aside from Twitter accounts seeking to remake The Last Jedi, alt-right or radical accounts also include Rubin Report. Yeah, the gay Jewish man is definitely the gay Jewish man is definitely out to have out for white supremacy. Who shows platform alt-right racist alt-right guests, and Ben Shapiro, another Jew. Shapiro has been particularly vocal against The Last Jedi, and the former editor at large of Breitbart from 2012 to 2016 during the publication spread of white supremacist and anti-feminist views into the mainstream. Ben Shapiro.
The Orthodox Jew would. Yeah, the Orthodox Jew writing for a white supremacist source. I don't know if you realize this or I don't know if this writer realizes this or not, but white supremacists are, last I checked, white supremacists are pretty anti-Semitic. And Ben Shapiro he's as Jewish as they come.
Shapiro is known for denying human rights abuses. When What human rights abuses has Ben Shapiro denied? Dude, I want to know where's this, including the members of the LGBTQ who community don't face discrimination. He also believes that homosexuality and identifying as transgender is a mental illness. Yeah, he's welcome to believe that. Those aren't human rights abuses.
Well, I mean, Ben Shapiro. Keep in mind, Ben Shapiro is an old school conservative.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he's welcome to think that. He's wrong, but he's welcome to think that. Watching The Last Jedi, but forgot my headphones, so just making up better dialogue. Luke apologized for tossing the lightsaber. Snoke admitted he's Darth Plagueis. This Rey found out she's Obi-Wan's granddaughter, and Finn and Rose just talk about how stupid the whole casino scene is. Other examples include hate against Rose Tico, pushed by avidly pro-Trump Twitter account and writer for the Babylon Bee, a conservative satirical site that is used to the cover of satire to joke about the Capitol insurrection, make Snyder art against Black Lives Matter protests.
Okay. So
Snide remarks against Black Lives Matter really isn't that hard to make. I'm sorry. Yeah, this whole tweet. This whole tweet just
okay, and what? This would imply that this would also imply that not a single person on the left had ever made fun of the Capitol insurrection. I say that in quotes. Like, nobody on the left made fun of the people taking part in that. They all took it seriously, unconditionally.
You know, that's fair. That's I like this one. It's too late to fix The Last Jedi. Just start episode 9 with Rose being executed for treason for attack on Finn. That's fair. Like, Rose. Okay, let's talk about Rose for a moment. She literally dooms everyone because she's stupid. Like, hey, I need to deliver the shittiest dialogue to ever come out of a Star Wars character's mouth. And I must doom the entire resistance. Because remember, at the point in the story when Rose appears, there is no way out of the cave system. Rey hasn't appeared to miraculously lift a mountain and to let them out. Oh no, Rey has appeared at this point. So Rey has appeared, but she hasn't learned to miraculously lift a mountain so they can get out. Like, as far as Rose Tico is concerned, is aware in universe, she has just doomed the entire resistance. Like, there's reason enough to execute her for treason. All roads lead to YouTube. All right. YouTube videos containing the keyword Last Jedi were analyzed based on the videos provided to me in the algorithm. In other words, I was only analyzing videos that YouTube would give me if I was looking to watch a video after searching The Last Jedi in YouTube search bar. As I expected, the sentiment on YouTube was slightly negative, with a negative positive sentiment ratio, blah, blah, blah. Like the analysis I conducted on Twitter, I wanted to dig into who these videos belong to. I simplified the methodology for this analysis and looked at 3 affiliations. 1, YouTubers who make videos about games and gaming, YouTubers who use their channel to push alt-right or radical right ideology, or accounts that do not meet the first 2 affiliations, including media, YouTubers, cultural critics, and fandom personalities. The vast majority of positive videos, about 87% of The Last Jedi, are fair reviews fair reviews, I'm sure.
fair reviews because it supports your narrative.
It'd be included in the third category, including media YouTubers like Chris Stuckman, What Culture, and fandom personalities like Kevin Smith and podcasters like Mr. Sunday Movies.
In other words, milquetoast normie shit. Okay.
Exactly. The remaining 13% of positive videos are from users who make YouTube videos about gaming. Therefore, they're evil. No, she is not. Not to my knowledge. She might have, but she has not defined what those terms mean. Which is important if she's going to use them as categories for her examination of these statistics. She would have to define those terms. In comparison, 40% of of negative videos are classified as other and include negative reviews by Red Letter Media and Wisecrack. It should be noted that other also includes videos by What Culture, although What Culture's review of The Last Jedi is ultimately positive. By what metric? Like, did you watch these? Like, hold on. Last Jedi is amazing and you are all insane. 336k views. So she's going by view count? That doesn't mean anything. The YouTube channel did release 2 negative videos about the film, seemingly cashing in on the YouTube backlash. What did the... so hold on. So I can only guess that What Culture skated by on positive in the positive section because they generally are SJWs. Like, yeah, that's a good question. Like, what about like the analysis? I wanted to dig into this. So it doesn't say she's not looking at Mark Hamill hates Star Wars and The Last Jedi. 5 million views. 9.4 million views. Who's 3.3 million views. 2.4 million views. Who's 840k views. Like, the view count is irrelevant. View count is irrelevant. Like, what about this stuff? Interaction, likes, dislikes, comments. What is all that? What about all that? Like, I assume the only reason What Culture is skating by because and isn't lumped in with all the negative stuff as a negative critique, as a negative of Star Wars, or is it because they support her narrative? Is because they believe in SJW bullshit? A quarter of negative videos are from channels that post content about gaming. However, within this group, several accounts could be labeled as pushing alt-right or radical right-wing ideology, but are not classified as such since their channels do not primarily push political agenda or their exact political beliefs are hard to pin down. So, judging by this sentence, but are not classified as such since their channels do not primarily push a political agenda or their exact political beliefs are hard to pin down. That tells me that Shoggoth here is most likely utterly subjective in her definitions of what the alt-right or radical right-wing ideology is. Like, she's certainly got examples of real white supremacists. Shoggoth is very accurate in that, I guess, pull. But if Shoggoth is using YouTube as a metric for negative reviews of The Last Jedi, well, Shoggoth is going to have to point out like things like interaction, like likes to like to dislike ratios, like view count. And this whole last sentence tells me that Shoggoth is being utterly subjective. She doesn't actually have a hard definition of what these things are. She's just using what she assumes to be the sort of she's just using what she assumes to be the sort of generalized what people believe these things are. She doesn't actually have a hard definition for them. She hasn't defined her terms. For example, PewDiePie, whose opinion on The Last Jedi is negative overall, hasn't been without racist anti-Semitic controversies. Oh god. Whoop-de-fucking-do. PewDiePie is... Yeah, PewDiePie only gets hate because he's so large, and basically he told people to listen to Jordan Peterson. Another example is YouTuber Vito, whose negative review of The Last Jedi, entitled The Last Jedi, a complete cinematic failure, is one of the most viewed videos mentioning the film with 9.4 million views. His political views vary from right-wing to leftist, and he doesn't like to associate with alt-right leaders like Jack Posobiec,
So bad.
who he has described as a grifter, even though he does indeed follow him. Okay?
A lot of people follow people they don't like.
Yeah.
I think Mahler's actually follows a lot of the people he makes fun of.
I'm sure he does.
And I think he also subscribed to some of them. I think he subscribed to Quentin reviews, and yeah, he makes fun of Quentin multiple times.
However, in Vito's review, the YouTuber states that one of the flaws of The Last Jedi is that Rian Johnson uses Laura Dern's character, Vice Admiral Holdo, to compel the audience to trust women. To make this point, Vito invokes criticism against the hashtag #MeToo movement to suggest that asking the audience to trust female characters in power is the same as asking people to trust women who come forward with their stories of sexual assault. He states in the video, quote, "What is the moral between the flawed interactions between Holdo and Poe? The most obvious moral is to be subservient to authority and blindly trust your superiors. However, the real moral is the ultimate an exercise in jamming politically correct politics into a kids movie with all the subtle nuance of a bad guy literally named General Grievous." See, Poe thinks he's a better leader than Holdo because he's a man, so he starts mansplaining. But what he really should have done is hashtag trust women, no matter what the situation, even if it seems like that particular woman is about to get you and everyone you love incinerated by a million lasers. Just trust women. She knows what's best. She's living her truth. Hashtag me too. Hashtag time's up. Mark Hamill hates Star Wars: The Last Jedi videos from Film Gob and is literally just clips from interviews he did. Also, the guy doesn't really get into politics on his channel at all. Correct. Like yeah, it's not. Yes, that's correct. This is what one should take away from the interactions between Poe and Holdo. Vito has also spread racism on his Twitter account in a quote tweet of an article reporting that podcast host has been suspended for using racial slurs. Vito insists that I rap along to songs containing the N-word, and I have never once felt bad about it. He then proceeds to tweet the racial slur. Whoop-de-fucking-do.
Okay, I'm looking at the tweet right now, and
Same.
no, all he does is just says, "Can a nigga get a table dance?" Just says it with nigga with an A.
Yeah, he didn't. Number one, he didn't use the hard R. But number two, So what? If I have a so this is one of those things that about the N word that I've never really understood. Black people can say it, but white people can't because my racism. But if it's okay for you, why is it not okay for me? Because I never owned slaves. Unless you're saying that because I am white, therefore I cannot use the language I so desire. So you're either telling me that you can do something I can't purely on the basis of my skin color, or you're telling, or you just don't want me to use the language you don't want to hear. Again, because of my skin color.
Well, I don't know. I
That
guess
sounds, I don't know. I don't know. Being told you can't say or do something because of my skin color, because of your skin color, that sounds racist to me, but nah, that's none of my business.
yeah. And saying that I'm not allowed to say it does kind of compel me to just say it anyway.
Exactly. I'm sure he has.
Though I guess in that,
Like,
I guess somewhat in that same vein, I guess the word queer has kind of become, I guess, like the N word for gays, since that's supposed to be derogatory, but everyone just kind of just thinks the word is synonymous with being gay.
hmm.
Never mind that the word queer means strange or unusual.
Another 37.5 of percent of negative videos are attributed to accounts whose channels actively push alt-right or right-wing misogynistic racist or racist ideology. Bishop Robert Barron, who's been a guest on Dave Rubin's Rubin Report, in his video he asserts that the Last Jedi, excuse me, he asserts that the Last Jedi is a bad film because race characterization occludes, I don't know, the male hero Luke Skywalker. Ben Shapiro also has a negative review of the film on his YouTube channel for the Daily Wire, where one of his critiques against The Last Jedi is that Johnson's filmmaking is nasty to his childhood. That this criticism is embedded in Shapiro's central ideology that American society is moving further away from the Judeo-Christian values that shaped the West, and any departure from those values will only make America a weak state.
I mean, he's not. I don't think he's
He's
entirely wrong about them straying away from Judeo-Christian values.
I agree. Like they like America is weaker for or the lack of values. See, that's the problem with um a lot of the SJW ideology. Because it is merely a tool, well, it is inherently hollow. It seeks only to destroy, not to rebuild. But what comes behind it, the communism and the socialism, they want to build a new society, a new communist society, a new socialist society. And because people don't actually learn in school like what communism socialism actually entail when they finally do get into power, or what communists and socialists do when they finally get into power, what inevitably occurs when that happens, they think this is a good thing. But because these people have destroyed so many facets of American society with this sort of with this ideology, they have inherently made America weaker because there's no values to to hold American society up. His other criticisms, like the majority of criticism leveled at The Last Jedi on YouTube, are misogynistic and claim that the film would be better if Rey was not the ultimate Mary Sue. Ooh, I agree. The Mary Sue is a pejorative label given to female characters who typically have a lead role, are strong-willed, powerful, and allowed to exercise femininity. The term
That
applies
is
standard
not what the word. That is not what the word means.
towards female fictional characters that are not applied to male characters in an effort to dismiss their legitimacy in the narrative. No. Ripley. Done. We're done with this entire thing. Ripley exists. Other examples of right-wing hate about The Last Jedi on YouTube includes a YouTube channel called IDRL Labs, IDR Labs. This channel pushes anti-feminist hate and general negativity about The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens, along with videos on anti-Marxist conspiracies and short videos against socialism. All the videos lead IDR Labs website, which contains hundreds of personality tests.
Okay.
Okay. So what?
Yeah.
Marx was a
Some people who talk about movies also talk about politics.
Yeah, but like he's not like Marx was an awful philosopher. He's so stupid. And not like, oh, Marx's thinking was inherently flawed. Like that's just it. Anyway, looking through the personality tests on their website, it reminded me of a comment by Christopher Wiley. I don't know. When asked how Cambridge Analytica created a tool for cultural and political change throughout their data science, he explained that before you can use Facebook likes to predict a person's psychological profile, you need to get a few hundred people. Wiley. Okay, so I was right. A few 100,000 people to do 120 custom personality quiz. These questions are used to build up profiles on users who they could target. The information from these users was also used to retrain and strengthen the machine learning algorithms that would identify similar individuals to that targeted user. In 2019, Facebook banned the use of personality tests for this reason.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
I'm guessing this is test claim to be created by professionals. I don't have enough information to conclude whether or not anti-feminist opinions about Star Wars and negative Last Jedi sentiment were used to push people to personality tests. Okay, so the majority of right-wing YouTubers spreading anti-The Last Jedi hate are from a slew of alt-right associated YouTubers who have dubbed themselves the Fandom Menace. All right. All right, we're about to hit an hour and a half here, so I think we're probably at a good stopping point. What do you think? Oh, he muted himself. I guess he'll be right back. But I think we're at a good stopping point. We'll try again. We will continue on next week with what I'm sure is going to be more pain. Oh, I can already tell there's going to be more pain.
Oh, what's up? Hey, what I miss?
Nothing. I just said we're approaching an hour and a half, and I think I think we've reached a good stopping point.
Oh Lord. So up next, we're just going to talk about all our favorite YouTubers.
Yep.
Fun.
Oh,
Chris.
I just cracked my neck. It was glorious.
And they talk about the live action Ariel casting. Oh Lord, this will be good.
All right. So let's go ahead and stop that and close this out. So, thank you all so much for joining us. We will be back next week.
Assuming you don't cancel at the last minute.
Article. Well, I had to cancel last week because I had to get my continuing education done so I could maintain my insurance license so I could continue to be gainfully employed.
Fine. Fair enough.
You know. that thing I do that makes me money, so I can do this on a once to twice a week basis. You too, Cyrek, and hopefully Shoggoth will be better next week.
Not likely.
All right. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It does help us out, and I do actually enjoy reading all the comments. So if you decide to write your opinion down in the comment section below, we do appreciate it. Not that YouTube's ever going to make us any bigger, but we can try. All right. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Take care.